Good morning, artists. Today we're going to talk about some of the painting procedures and some of the rules I'd like you to follow with watercolor as you experiment with your artist trading cards today. Now to begin, I've sent one person from my color table to my sinks to get one of my trays of water that I've only filled less than halfway to prevent less spilling. And I've taken a variety of brushes that I have down in their pool. I also have my palette of watercolor, and I've started with just 3 artist trading cards to begin. Step 1, the first thing I do is always the same. I take my pencil and write my name. I also want to include my teacher code, your grade dash their initials. That way I know whose are whose when we go to hand these back. The paint. We've reviewed washes, dry brush, but really this is about experimentation. Proper painting procedures: when I wet my brush, I need to wake up my watercolor paint with a little bit of water. Imagine it's Sheet's morning coffee from across the street or the Dunkin' Donuts they're putting in. It needs a little bit of a perky wake up, and that's because watercolor paint is activated by water. And so is my watercolor paper. For example, if I am doing a wash, we use our paintbrush like a ballerina. On her tippy toes, she glides across my paper. I'm waking up my paper with just a little bit of water. I am not scrubbing my paintbrush into my paper. Like a ballerina, she is silent. She on her tippy toes, she glides across my paper. I should not be able to hear your paintbrushes. She's a ballerina, not a break dancer. Just glide on the side. Now that I've woken up my paint, I'm using my ballerina brush on her tippy toes. I can glide her across my paper to create some artist trading cards. To clean, swish, wipe. I'm not contaminating my next paint as I glide across my artist trading card. Ballerina brush always on her tippy toes, and I'm being mindful of my control, back and forth as I glide across my paper. Your artist trading cards don't have to look like anything in particular, but you can certainly transform them into things like, for example, you saw in my Minute to Make It on DIS Live, how about a little landscape? Purple running in for my clouds. Ballerina brush always on her tippy toes, and I'm taking advantage of what the watercolor paint does naturally. It just sort of runs together. It's allowed to be a little bit unpredictable. I've got sort of like a watery watercolor sunset. You may continue to paint, but when you are complete, the first thing I do is always the same. I return my artwork first to the cart. These are too small for our drying rack. So when class is up and you hear my warning bell, these things will travel to my McCart art cart, where they will sit together and dry. We'll keep them then in your class closet. I'll then ask table helpers, whoever is your table captain, to carefully carry bodies in control and making sure you're following my yellow brick road to your sinks, where we're just going to set these directly in. We'll have sink monitors that will take care of our brushes, and they'll make sure that they are swished and bristle side up in my cup. Now our woke up watercolor paints, if the next class is not painting, they might be a little runny. So what I'm going to ask that you do, artists, is that you actually don't close them. Keep the lids open. That way the water will evaporate a little bit from the inside. And my sink checkers can make sure that they are cleaned out from the palette lids. So we want them open and lined up against the wall, just like you were getting in the hall. So artists, those are our painting procedures for beginning your artist trading cards. Remember, ballerina brush on her tippy toes. We swish and clean our brush to not contaminate our paint, and always making sure our name is on our art and it's on the cart. Good luck, artists. Let's create your pieces today.